أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد سيد المرسلين خاتم النبيين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. عباد الله، أوصيكم وإياي بتقوى الله وطاعته، وأحذركم وإياي عن عصيانه تعالى ومخالفة أمره. يقول الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: من عمل صالحا فلنفسه ومن أساء فعليها وما ربك بظلم العبيد. Begin, my dear brothers and sisters, as we always do, by emptying our hearts, our minds from all of the emotions and all of the thoughts that course through them and occupy us and distract us from feeling the presence of Allah more keenly. And therefore, as we sit quietly like this, with empty hearts and empty minds, we then are able to feel the presence of Allah more keenly in our hearts and in our minds. And in this state, we then submit and bear witness that there is no God but God, the one, the only, the all-powerful, the almighty, creator of the heavens and the earth, and light of the heavens and the earth, the all-merciful, the all-compassionate, who created us to be his representatives on earth, to be the most noble of all of creation. And we complete this testimony by bearing witness that our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is his beloved servant and messenger, whom Allah sent as a mercy to all the worlds, as an exemplar to teach us and to show us how to live a life most pleasing to Allah. We invoke Allah's salawats, his salams, and his barakats, his blessings and peace, and greetings upon the soul of this noble Prophet and messenger, upon those who, of his contemporaries, who bore witness to him and who stood by him and who struggled with him to ensure that the faith of God would be established on earth, and also upon his noble family and upon the generations who succeeded them in ensuring that this faith of Allah will exist and thrive and grow. Allah says in his noble book that whoever of you does good, you have only benefited yourself, and whoever of you commits a wrong has only wronged himself, for your Lord is not unjust to his servants. And it is this principle of whatever we do, of good or bad, we do to our benefit or we only wrong ourselves, that occurred to me a few days ago when I was deeply distressed about the situation in Gaza. And I went to sleep. At that night, I had a vision while sleeping. In this vision, I witnessed justice, and I witnessed it as an absolute. I also witnessed mercy, and witnessed this as an absolute. And I also witnessed existence or being as absolute, that they permeate all of existence. While I knew in the vision that each of these items are aspects of God, and among his beautiful names, I did not experience these as God directly, but each item as on its own, distinguished by its feature of mercy and compassion, of justice, and of being. I also felt a great comfort because I also witnessed that each of these attributes completely permeate all of existence. And I was comforted because in spite of what the government of Israel has sustained in its atrocious actions against the Palestinians, what I witnessed was, in my vision, that each of these items are actively reaching out and embracing all of creation. Thus, every Palestinian will receive Allah's justice, Allah's mercy, as will every Israeli. I also realized that although Israel had the greater military power, the Palestinians have won the battle of the hearts and minds of people. They have won the moral high ground. In article after article, we have been reading about how the Israeli government is losing acceptance globally, even in India, which has a positive relationship with Israel. The majority of the world nations are on the side of the Palestinians, and the majority of Americans under the age of 30 are supportive of the Palestinians. What this means, brothers and sisters, is that Israel has at most another 20 years of US support before US public opinion will shift in favor of the Palestinians. So those of us who have my generation, who have witnessed all of their lives the Western powers completely supportive of Israel and completely ignoring the plight of the Palestinians, I strongly believe that there will be an expiration date to such complete American support. We also pray that Biden's statement that a ceasefire will occur within a week and that the hostilities will end for the month of Ramadan gives me hope that the suffering of the Palestinians will ease up. And we pray that it will be a permanent easing. Brothers and sisters, we are now in the last couple of weeks of Sha'ban, a month whose excellence over the other months is like the excellence of our Prophet Muhammad over all the prophets. We spent the past few weeks talking about the role of the Prophet and how in this month it behooves us to acquire within ourselves whatever we can of the Sunnah of the Prophet. We focus therefore on his attribute of being a witness over us as a means to develop within ourselves the capacity to be a witness over people as the Quran instructs us to be, which meant that we are to be a guide to others, to be a shepherd to our flock, and to shepherd them towards Allah and his mercy and his compassion. The hadith records tell us that our Prophet used to fast in this month of Sha'ban more than in any other month other than Ramadan. So those of you who wish to fast as many days of this month as they can, you have the prophetic sunnah before you to inspire you. There's also a hadith in which the month of Sha'ban complained to Allah. It was sandwiched between this sacred month of Rajab and the month of Ramadan, to which Allah answered, "You are the month in which I have decreed the recitation of the Quran." Therefore, brothers and sisters, it is recommended that you try to recite as much of the Quran as you can in this month, although I know that more of you will probably recite it during the next month of Ramadan. One way to think about this is that we should prepare ourselves for Ramadan, when we will be fasting daily, inshallah, and we shall be reciting the whole Quran at least once, inshallah. Most of the calendars indicate that Ramadan will begin on March 11th, although my personal opinion, based upon the visibility of the crescent of the new moon, I believe the crescent of the new moon will not be visible on March 10th in New York or anywhere in the world for that matter, except for maybe in Hawaii. But it will be visible certainly on the evening of March 11th, which means that Ramadan should begin on the March 12th, according to my calculation. But we shall see when most of the community will opt to begin the first of Ramadan. But whichever it is, on the eve of that day, the evening before that, we shall be in Taraweeh. And those of you who wish to join us in Taraweeh, please let us know. You may have the link already. If not, please let us know so we can receive the link. In my previous Ramadan khutbas, I made the analogy of preparing for Ramadan and intending to go to the supermarket. Your objective in going to the supermarket is not just to go to the supermarket and enjoy its ambience. It is to buy groceries that you need or want, such as milk, eggs, vegetables, fruit, cooking oil, etc. But just as intending to go to the supermarket is insufficient, you have to know your objectives in going, otherwise your visit will not be productive. We all have experienced many times when we have gone to the supermarket intending to buy certain things, but because we didn't write down our lists, we left the store and returned home, and we realized we forgot to purchase something that we needed, or maybe a couple of things. Analogously, intending to fast the month of Ramadan is insufficient. You should know your objectives in fasting. It's not about enjoying the ambience of Ramadan, although its ambience is certainly one which we love very much, especially in Muslim majority countries. The danger of not knowing what we want, that the Prophet's hadith, which says, many a fasting person gains nothing from his fast but hunger and thirst, and many a person prays the Qiyam Tarawih prayer and gains nothing but fatigue. Brothers and sisters, you don't want this hadith to apply to you, do you? This hadith warns us that we should not just rely on the physical aspect of fasting, in other words, just avoiding food and drink and sex during the day, without focusing on the spiritual dimension of fasting. If we fast, but we speak ill of people, or commit fraud, or any of the other sins that we are commanded to avoid, then we have gained nothing from our physical fast but hunger and thirst. Another hadith makes this point, where the Prophet said, whoever does not leave evil words and evil deeds while fasting, Allah does not need him to leave food and drink. Allah does not need him to avoid food and drink. So you see that this also guides us into making the fast more than a physical thing. We have to engage and participate with our hearts, our minds, and our souls. Essentially, what these ahadith prove is that what you get out of something is a function of what you put into it. And the primary thing that you put into it is your intention to fast and the purposes of your intentionality. Ramadan is not only or just about your physical fasting. You need to know the purpose and the objective behind your fasting. So making the intention to fast Ramadan, it's not just about reciting your niyyah, your intention to avoid food and drink and sex. It's about what is the purpose behind your fasting in this month of Ramadan. And just as not everyone comes out of the supermarket with the same items in their shopping cart because their purposes and their intentions varied, what you come out of the month of Ramadan with Allah's rewards in your shopping cart is also a function of what your intentions were to get out of it. And just as a supermarket has special sales and promotions, and sometimes you have new things and items or seasonal items, Ramadan too has its special promotions, its special sales, and its seasonal items. The Quran and the Prophet have guided us on what we should establish as our objectives that we should get out of the month of Ramadan. We might even say that the Quran informs us what the Ramadan specials are. It's explained in Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah number 2, verses 182 to 187. The first one reads, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية من طعام مسكين فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. O you who have believed, fasting is prescribed for you as it was prescribed to those who came before you, so that you would be pious. This phrase, لعلكم تتقون, so that you would be pious, is the operative cause of this commandment. The operative cause is the cause of any commandment, of every commandment. Every commandment that Allah, not every commandment in the Quran has a cause, explicit cause. But this one, the command to fast, has an explicit cause. So when there is an explicit cause, the jurists have said that that becomes the reason, the rationale, or what's called in legal jargon, the operative cause for the law. The operative cause of fasting is so that we gain taqwa, we gain piety. Therefore, the logic goes, if you fast and you do not gain any taqwa, your fast therefore has not been valid because you have not satisfied or met the operative cause. So brothers and sisters, focus your Ramadan fast on gaining taqwa. We might say that taqwa must therefore be the very first item and the most important item on your Ramadan shopping list. It's a Ramadan special because fasting makes it easy to gain taqwa, because the physical energy it takes to get angry and to energize your anger and therefore your sin, and to express negative feelings and attitudes is weakened and reduced. Another seasonal special is given in the hadith of the Prophet, where he said, "Namu as-sa'im ibadah wa samtuhu tasbih." The sleep of a fasting person is worship, and his silence is meditation or praising God. In fact, the most delicious sleep I have ever tasted is sleeping while fasting, especially in the time window between Asr and Maghrib. For those of you who can do so, try to experience what it tastes like. And clearly, this is another Ramadan special where worship and tasbih are sold for the cheap price of sleeping and not talking while fasting. In fact, you might say that the pleasure that we gain in sleeping between Asr and Maghrib while fasting is the joy of doing dhikr and tasbih, or worship, or ibadah and tasbih. When else in the year can you get such a bargain, brothers and sisters? A third objective of fasting is self-knowledge. Fasting stills us. It enables us to recognize our soul and to differentiate it from our minds or our intellects and our emotional being and our physical being. Our soul is the locus of our eternal self, our timeless self, and of our will. Fasting results in the strengthening of our will. It enables us to see more clearly with our souls, which is an essential part of our spiritual education, which in turn enables the soul and the will to act in accordance with what is best for its interests on the Day of Judgment. And as I've mentioned many times before, our souls are eternal. They do not die when we die. Our death is a separation of our souls from our bodies, our intellects, and our emotions. A fourth benefit or objective is to read the Quran, since Ramadan was when the Quran was sent down. As the Quran says in these verses, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. The month of Ramadan is the month in which the Quran came down. هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان, as a guidance for people and a means of distinguishing or differentiating right from wrong. This verse adds that Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was sent down. And hence we call the night in which the Quran was revealed, Laylatul-Qadr. The Quran here additionally defines Ramadan as the month that contains Laylatul-Qadr. Allah commands us to recite the Quran, Surah Muzammil, Surah 73, verses 1 to 4, and again in the last verse where Allah commands us to recite what is comfortable for us to recite. فَقْرَأُوا مَا تَيَسَّرَ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ. And because Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was first revealed, many Muslims make it a point of reading the whole Quran during Ramadan, for this also aids in our gaining taqwa. The involvement of our minds in understanding and seeking to understand the meanings of the Quranic verses, and assimilating and appreciating its meanings and following its directives and commandments is another aspect of gaining in taqwa. A fifth objective is the Prophet's urging us to look for our own individual experience of Laylatul-Qadr. As we've mentioned in many hadith, some of the Prophet's companions experienced Laylatul-Qadr in the first 10 days of Ramadan. So it can be experienced anytime, but for those who have not experienced it until the last 10th, third of Ramadan, the Prophet urged them to try hard to experience Laylatul-Qadr during that window of time. Your experience, brothers and sisters, of Laylatul-Qadr is unique to you. It can happen to you in any number of ways. But it is essentially a spiritual experience marked by a heightened experience of Allah and of His reality. And even if you do not experience it powerfully in any one given day or night, whether you experience it in a vision while awake or in a dream while asleep, the flavor of Laylatul Qadr definitely permeates the whole of Ramadan. In other words, we can accurately say and correctly say that the heightened spirituality that you experience daily during the month of Ramadan is itself one manifestation of Laylatul Qadr. We shall inshallah be talking more about Laylatul Qadr in the month of Ramadan. The sixth objective, the sixth item to write down on your shopping list for Ramadan is to win Allah's pardon. The Prophet said that Ramadan is the month in which the Satans are chained and the doors of hell are locked. This hadith is also explained by another hadith, which the Prophet said that every night of Ramadan, Allah declares amnesty, a divine pardon, to 600,000 souls who were destined to hell. And on the last night of Ramadan, He pardons as many as He did for the previous 29 nights of Ramadan. And I did the math, brothers and sisters, and it computes to approximately 35 million souls released from hell during that 1 month of Ramadan. Now, during the Prophet's time, in the mid-600s AD, the global population was estimated to have been around 200 to 210 million. And the whole population of the Arabian Peninsula at that time was much less than 35 million. This means that Allah would have given His amnesty to around 17% of the human population of that time in just one Ramadan. And in 6 years, would have forgiven the whole human population alive at that time. And what we do not know is if Allah will forgive today the same number, 600,000 souls every night, or about 35 million for the month, or whether He will give His amnesty to 17% of the current world population, which would be around 1.4 billion souls for the whole month. This might place the hadith as being a weak one, but the essential point is the emphasis on Allah's mercy, that Allah very, very much prefers not to send human souls to hell, and that Allah uses any excuse to forgive us and to prevent us from going to hell and to reward us with paradise. Ramadan, brothers and sisters, is such a month wherein Allah abundantly showers His mercy upon us, we human sinners. And just as like the prophetic hadith that says that if a person bathes 5 times daily in a clean, clear stream adjacent to his house, there will be no dirt on him, as a descriptor of the effect of the 5-time daily prayers on the Muslim. We have all these opportunities to purify ourselves and to get rid of our sins by having Allah forgive us for them. Whoever wins Allah's mercy and forgiveness in Ramadan is therefore a winner. And whoever does not gain Allah's mercy and forgiveness in Ramadan is indeed a great loser. So, brothers and sisters, we have identified 6 important objectives for you to focus your fasting on. First, getting taqwa. Second, getting reward for worship and tasbih by sleeping and being silent while fasting. Third, getting self-knowledge, especially spiritual knowledge. Fourth, reading the Quran and acquiring from it its wisdom. Fifth, experiencing Laylatul-Qadr. And finally, the 6th, getting Allah's forgiveness and pardon. Please jot that down. Write these line items down and make it part of your Ramadan shopping list. And think of whatever else you can add to this list, brothers and sisters, and go and begin Ramadan willfully and deliberatively, seeking to attain and to get out of it and to exit Ramadan with all of these items in your shopping cart. and may Allah help us all succeed in getting these wonderful objectives. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. Pray to Allah that He may answer our supplications. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا كما أمر، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، المتعالي عن المشاركة والمشاكلة لسائر البشر، ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم عبده ورسوله النبي المعتبر. واعلموا أن الله تعالى صلى على النبي واعلموا أن الله تعالى صلى على نبيه قديما، فقال تعالى: ولم يزل قائلا عليما وآمرا حكيما، تنبيها لكم وتعليما وتشريفا لقدر نبيه وتعظيما، إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد، كما صليت وسلمت وباركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. ورضى اللهم عن الأربعة الخلفاء السادات الحنفاء المميزين بعده بالرعاية والولاية والاصطفاء، ذوي القدر العلي والفخر الجلي، ساداتنا وموالينا وأئمتنا أبي بكر الصديق وعمر وعثمان وعلي. وارض عن السلطان السعيدين حسن الشهيدين القمرين النيرين، سد شباب أهل الجنة في الجنة وريحان نبي هذه الأمة، الإمام أبي محمد الحسن والإمام أبي عبد الله الحسين، وعن أمهما فاطمة الزهراء، وعن جدتهما خديجة الكبرى، وعن عائشة أم المؤمنين، وعن بقية أزواج رسول الله أجمعين، وعن التابعين وتابع التابعين وتابعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات، إنك السميع قريب مجيب الدعوات يا رب العالمين. اللهم وأيد الإسلام وأعلي وانصر كلمة الحق والإيمان. اللهم اجعل خير زماننا آخرة، وخير أعمالنا خواتيمها، وخير أيامنا يوم لقائك، وارفع مقتك وغضبك عنا. اللهم ارفع مقتك وغضبك عنا. اللهم ارفع مقتك وغضبك عنا، ولا تسلط علينا بذنوبنا من لا يخافك فينا ولا يرحمنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم أصلح أحوالنا، بلغنا مما يرضيك آمالنا، واختم بالصالحات أعمالنا، وبالسعادة آجالنا، وتوفنا وأنت راض عنا يا رب العالمين. أسأل الله العظيم رب العرش الكريم أن يغفر لي ولكم وللمسلمين أجمعين. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي، يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم، وأقم الصلاة.